Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about Halo Infinite and how it's been the biggest surprise of the major releases we've had in November of 2021. Right off the bat, I don't want to keep you waiting. Halo Infinite is the best shooter of 2021 by a long shot, especially compared to Battlefield and Vanguard. Those two games don't come even close in my opinion, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I have the least connection to Halo as a franchise, and I fully expected Battlefield to be the game that blew me away, but it wasn't, and Halo is the one that's really taken my heart this year. But before we get into the details about Halo Infinite, I wanted to take a quick second to set the stage about myself and my time with Halo, and so you get a little bit more context about why I was so surprised. I'm in my early 30s, and like any gamer of my age, Halo was an ever-present force among my social circles that were into gaming. For me personally, I didn't really like FPS games at this time of my life. I'm mostly referring to middle school and early high school, and I've never really owned any kind of Xbox. I was a PlayStation kid growing up, and I focused a lot of my attention on story-focused games like Metal Gear Solid, and plenty of sports games like NBA 2K and NBA Live, Madden, NBA Street, NFL Blitz, games like that. I also gamed quite a bit on my family's PC. I didn't have a gaming PC or anything, so I mostly focused on strategy-type games. StarCraft Brood War, Warcraft 2 and 3 before the Warcraft story and lore and characters just got relegated to World of Warcraft and Hearthstone. It was a real-time strategy game, so I played Warcraft 2 and 3 quite a bit. Age of Empires, Age of Mythology, you get the idea. I also toyed around with things like Sim Theme Park and The Sims from time to time, but mostly those real-time strategy type games. So I don't really have that much of a connection to Halo, and a lot of people my age really have that nostalgia that just isn't baked into my personality. I barely played it growing up other than at LAN parties or when visiting a friend who had an Xbox, and to be honest, most of the time I got dominated, so I didn't have much interest in Halo. My shooter experience once I got into the mid-high school age and up was mostly with Call of Duty and Battlefield. So imagine my surprise when I played Halo Infinite this year, and I had the most fun I've had with a shooter in years. It's not perfect, but it does so many things right that even though it's in beta and has a few flaws here and there, they're almost not noticeable. So let's get into some of the things that I really love about this game and why it's been such a great experience for me. To start off with PC performance, like I've said before, I game pretty much exclusively on my PC at this point, so that's where I'm coming from. It's very consistent. I have almost no frame drops or frame hitching. Everything feels very smooth and consistent. The visuals are very clear and concise. I can tell who are enemies and who aren't, even though they have skins and cosmetics that don't necessarily turn every game into a red versus blue, since people will have their Cloud9 skins or something like that. They have outlines around the characters, and also when you're hitting their shields, they have this color overlay over the character that matches their team color, and it makes it super obvious and clear who is an enemy and who is an ally. And compared to Battlefield and compared to Vanguard, which don't have things like this, it is so refreshing to just know who an enemy is and to shoot at them and feel confident about it. I never shoot at my allies in this game. I never make that dumb mistake that I make all the time in Battlefield and all the time in Vanguard. Gunplay also feels great. Some guns have a little bit of recoil, a lot of them don't have too much recoil, but the time to kill is really long, as is characteristic with Halo, and it creates this really big skill gap, which I personally very much enjoy. I am a big fan of sports and played a lot of sports growing up. I have a very competitive mindset with games like this, so I like high skill gap games as well, and this is the perfect one for it. Like I said, gunplay feels awesome. I never have any weird wonkiness about recoil. Everything's predictable, and I feel like I can use these guns and know what to expect. Movement also feels really tight and smooth. There are some quality of life modern improvements to the game like sliding, but as a lot of you know, I'm not that fond of sliding aggressively in games, and I love how it's implemented here. You can't slide cancel around the way that you do in Call of Duty. Even in Battlefield, the way that you can kind of slide in that game, you can still do it aggressively. This game feels like sliding is definitely meant to be something that you do to get away from somebody or get behind cover quickly. You can use it as a mobility tactic, but it's not something you want to do aggressively. The jumping around too, even though you do have less gravity to your character, again, as is characteristic of Halo, it doesn't feel too floaty. It doesn't feel like I can't predict it that well. It feels awesome. It feels perfect. I would say these movement controls and everything feel as good as any game can possibly make their controls and movement feel. As another side thing, it's free to play for the multiplayer, which is awesome. My friends are not the types that buy many games per year. I personally try to buy every video game that I am super interested in every year, so that could be something like 10 plus games depending on the year. My friends are the types of people that buy one, maybe 2 games throughout a year. So having a free-to-play option like this that is so fun is awesome. And to go with that, there is seemingly no pay to win. With this type of arena shooter, the guns are all looted off of the ground or off of the wall. So you don't build loadouts or anything like that. That could have some pay to win elements. The only thing that might concern me in the long run, we don't know how this is going to be yet, is if there are gun skins. I hope they don't do something like a Warzone where some gun skins have cleaner iron sights than others or cleaner reticles than others. Nothing like that, please. Just maybe a paint job on the gun. So with that, there are a few things I would like to see ironed out. It's not perfect, no game is, but overall, these are some of the things that I would like to see changed or improved in some way. The menus are a mess. They're really confusing to navigate, so I'd like to see that improved. On top of that, the friends and party system is not very intuitive. The first time I played with some people, a 4-man squad, it took us several minutes to figure out how to add each other as friends and get a party going, which I believe they call a fire team in Halo. It just took way too long. Something like Warzone and Call of Duty and Battlefield, well, especially old Battlefield, I haven't played 2042 with anybody, feels very intuitive and quick to get going. This just took a lot of time. Adding friends through Discord didn't seem to work. We just had to do it with the friend code in Steam, which is another thing I don't really like. But yeah, I would like to see some improvements here. We already have to sign in with an Xbox ID, so maybe just having Xbox friends, that might work. Even though the performance is very consistent, frame rate is lower than I'd expect from my hardware. I've talked before how I have a 5900X and a 3090 and 64 gigs of RAM in my system. I would expect super high frame rates even on Ultra. While this game is decent looking, it's not amazing looking, and I think I'm usually right around 90 to 100 FPS if I remember right. I was expecting like 120, 130, 140 plus, and I'm not getting that. Hopefully that improves later on. We are still in a beta stage, but frame rate is lower. But like I said, the performance is consistent, so at least when I'm in that 90 to 100 range, I stick there pretty consistently. Frame drops are the things that make things feel really terrible when you have something like 95 FPS and then you cancel something and then suddenly you're at 40 FPS, which has happened to me in 2042 all the time. That's what feels really horrible, and that doesn't happen in this game. It feels pretty rock solid, but yes, I would like to see the frame rate improved over time. Pricing on cosmetics in the store also feels really expensive. I'm not sure how they're going to address this. I think they have discussed maybe tweaking the way that pricing works in their store. The devs have been pretty active about feedback for this game, but right now pricing feels a little too expensive in the store, and I'd like to see that improved. The battle pass also doesn't make much sense. I think the way that you progress the battle pass is by completing specific challenges rather than having it be specifically tied to XP. So if you earned like 1,000 XP in a match, you don't get 1,000 XP toward your battle pass. It depends on how many headshots you got toward a certain challenge and how many sniper kills you got toward a certain challenge, which I find super odd. I don't really like thinking about that kind of thing when I'm playing a game, especially when I'm trying to be competitive. I just want to do the things that secures the win. So I'd like to see that improved as well. And finally, my only other concern, this might be a bit nitpicky, is the viability of an arena shooter long term. I'm not sure how they're going to keep this fresh, maybe with new maps, maybe some party game modes would work as well. We'll see how that shakes out long term. And that sums up my thoughts on Halo. I'm really loving it. Let me know what you think if you've had a chance to play it in the comments below. I'd love to have a conversation. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like, and if you didn't, leave a dislike so I know you need to change something. Subscribe if you're new. We're going to be covering World War III coming up, and we have plenty more content around the other shooters and maybe some variety as well. With that, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.